Hello, everybody. This is Chris and Dan back with another episode of A Father's Love Healing Through Heartache. It's really just us two guys. We're two fathers who have both suffered the losses of our son. Chris lost his 7-year-old Mason, and I lost my 9-year-old Jameson. And we're doing this podcast in order for, first of all, for us to be able to talk with each other and hopefully help each other through the process of grieving the loss of our sons and just trying to move forward step by step. And we're hoping along the way that we're able to help some other people. And Chris and I are super excited, and I'm going to let Chris share just some of the cool things that have been happening lately with our podcast. Chris, good to see you, my friend.
Dan, as always, thanks, brother. Great being on with you again. And yeah, definitely. First off, want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen, whether it's on WMQL Radio in Brevard, or it's on YouTube, or any of the podcast platforms that you're listening. We really appreciate your time, because time is precious. Time is with your family, with your friends, when you're listening to us, and you're taking that time away from them to listen to us. So thank you for taking that time. And yeah, we're excited for another episode, and to hopefully continue to grow together as a family, all of us, as we listen, trying to help each other out with healing with grief, finding the best things that work for us, hopefully helping some people out. And if you contact us and let us know what's working for you, we'll definitely get you on the air here so that we can hear what works for you. This last episode Dan and I put on, we had numerous people reach out, giving us different things that they used dealing with their grief, how they're doing their step-by-step process. And to be honest, it's great. It's great to have people reach out to us and give us some more tools to put in our toolbox to get through the day. I know I think Dan, I don't know if he reached out to you as well. That one guy reached out with his book that he wrote about grief after losing his son. And I thought that was very interesting. And he's a Vietnam veteran, and we're working on maybe getting him on in a future episode. And we've had a couple other people reach out as well, and thank you for those that have taken the time to do that. So, but with that, Dan, we want to talk about today's episode, what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, and actually, I think, Chris, let's dive a little deeper in before we get to the episode, because I think they do tie nicely. What are some of the messages that you've received in the past, what's it been, year and a half since we started?
Yeah, I mean, I've had numerous people reach out. Dan and I started this, at least for me, it was pretty recent after Mason went to heaven. And, I know it was a little bit after for Dan, but once we started and we started sharing it on a lot of social media pages that deal with grief, trying to get people to just hear us and our opinions. Again, we're just two regular dads that went through the unimaginable and are trying to make it through that step-by-step, day-by-day moment. And lo and behold, once we started really broadcasting this out there through YouTube, through our podcasts on different platforms, people started reaching out to us. And it was just kind of comforting to know that we weren't alone, first off. We talk about being on that island and being alone, but we've had numerous people reach out, some to help us, some looking out, reaching for someone to help them. And I think we've been able to help them, whether we've been able to bring them onto the podcast and let them tell their story, or really just kind of giving them the chance to, some of them, it's the first time they've ever told the story of how they lost their loved one. And the transformation that changes, that occurs after they're able to get that out for the first time, it's kind of rewarding to see somebody starting to go through that recovery. I think Dan and I have said numerous times, we know, at least I know in my heart for sure, that I'm never going to be totally healed. I'm always going to miss my son. I'm always going to be sad that he's gone. But I still want to get to that point where I have happiness in my life. And, I have happiness with my other children and with my wife. And that some of the guests that have come on have given me that hope. So I've had a couple people reach out to us, and they've really expressed interest in either coming on and also thanking us for doing this podcast, helping them through their difficult times.
Awesome. And yeah, just in the last week and a half alone, I've had three different people reach out to me. Um, One was a lady that lost her husband, I, I guess now about 2 weeks ago from COVID. So she is, I mean, she's just on the beginning of her journey of grief. And I don't know how she came across it. I shared it on one of the Facebook pages, I guess, and she saw it and she wrote and just asked for help. And the easiest thing for us to do first is guide her to this podcast, because if you've listened, as Chris has said, we're real, we're raw, and it helps to hear other people talk about the same things, because we find out that we are normal. Well, what we're feeling is normal, and our thoughts are normal. So I was glad that that lady was able to tune in and start listening. I had I was a little bit shocked this week. I found out about a death in our community that I hadn't heard about, of somebody that I know pretty well. And they obviously are just struggling because they're on the beginning of their journey. And again, the quickest, easiest thing is to refer them to the podcast as one step of their walk. And then I had a friend from high school reach out Thursday night for sharing the podcast with her mother, to deal with the grief of losing somebody close to her. And it is it's not a good thing. I mean, nothing about anything that Chris and I are doing and anything any people are going through with grief, nothing's good about it. But if we can help each other, we need to help each other. And as Chris and I have said many times, we're glad to do it. And that's why I think Chris and I have decided tonight to kind of revisit the words that people say, because it's been a while since we talked about that. And grief is an ever changing journey. And as Erica and I are coming up on 3 years in just little over 3 weeks, I think it is now, or just under 3 weeks, I guess, looking at the date of what today is. We're right at 3 years of being without our little buddy Jameson, and the words that people use still help and still hurt, depending on what words they are. So, Chris and I wanted to revisit that. So, Chris, I'll open with you. Just where you want to take it.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit before this episode start. Like Dan and I usually do, we collaborate, discuss what we want to talk about on the episodes and how we want to proceed with them. And one of the interesting things he mentioned as we were talking about this episode was, has my feelings changed at all about what people said at the beginning compared to where I'm at now? And I had to think about that for a second when he said that, because if you go back in previous episodes, one of the things that people used to say right when Mason went to heaven that really irked me a lot, I was really upset all the time, was when people said, I couldn't imagine going through that. And you know what? I couldn't imagine going through it either before it happened. I never thought it would happen to me. And I think most people that deal with grief, especially grief of a child or a spouse, a younger spouse or anything like that, is I couldn't imagine. You don't think it's going to happen to you. None of us thought this would happen. I'm sure Dan feels the same way. He did not think that was going to happen to Jameson. I know I never thought this would happen to my family. I've heard stories and I prayed, please God, don't let that ever happen to my family. And somehow, we got stuck with this, I don't know, what do you want to call it, curse, or it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. And when people used to say that right when Mason first passes, I couldn't imagine. I just want to say, well, don't say that, because I have to deal with it every single day, and you're making me mad for saying it. But as the time has gone on, as I tell Mason's story, I still have people every now and then say, I can't imagine, or I couldn't imagine anybody going through that. And it has changed for me. It is not as intense. The anger is not as intense. I still don't like the saying, but you know what? You know what I really think it is I think people just need a filler. They don't like awkward silence. It's obviously could be a difficult conversation happening, and they don't know how to respond. So what do they say? I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine. And I don't take it as ill will, like someone's trying to hurt me or that they, um, think anything wrong in that. That's just one of my own little personal quirks. So hopefully, if you're listening to this episode and you're not dealing with grief and you're just looking for some tips, take that as a tip. You're going to have to kind of maneuver it depending on the person you're dealing with, that's dealing with grief, and figure out what their little quirks are, what you don't want, what they don't want to hear, and what they want to hear. I think Dan and I have talked numerous times that some of the best things you could just say is that is horrible, that sucks, I'm here for you. Those simple little terms, not trying to say things like they're in a better place. All the cliche things that are said when someone passes away, they're in a better place, they're looking down on you, God needed them more than you, all those things. Those are horrible things to say to a parent dealing with grief. I'm going to tell you that right now. Don't ever say those things. The parent's going to want to punch you.
Haven't got another angel.
Haven't got another angel. Yes, all those things.
That's not even biblical.
Yes, exactly. So stay away from those. Okay. The best thing you can do, and Dan might get into this a little bit more with what he says, is you want to just acknowledge the parent's pain or the person dealing with the grief. You want to acknowledge their pain and how horrible of a situation they're really dealing with, and let them know that they're not alone. You're there to support them. You're there to help them. So Dan, what about you? What were some of the things that really kind of hurt you?
Yeah, I think for me, and it happened yesterday, and it's not necessarily the words as much as it is the failure to ask a question and then just totally not listen to the response. I had somebody yesterday ask me, how am I doing? And yesterday was a pretty lousy day for me. Something happened in the morning at home, and it just set me off. And then it took me right into Missing Jameson all day long. And it just wasn't a good day. And somebody at the end of the day asked me how the age-old question, how you doing? And I was honest. And I said, today's been a pretty rotten day. And the response I got was a great big smile. And I don't remember the exact words because I tuned them out right away. But it was basically, that's great. We got to make the best out of it. And yeah, I'm sorry to say it, but there are times that we want to just punch somebody in the face. And I just was in shock, and I literally just kept walking because I couldn't do anything else without making it even worse. Because I told you flat out, today sucked. And you're going to look at me, smile, and tell me how great that is. Just no. And that has happened to me twice from two different people, that exact scenario. And I can't talk to those people anymore because I think I put up a wall very quickly around people who don't listen. It's not necessarily that you say something that's hurtful, but if you're just not even listening to what I'm saying, I don't have the energy, I don't have the strength, I don't have the patience, I don't have the joy, I don't have any way that I can sit there and have a conversation with you when you're not even going to listen to the words. Why am I wasting my time? So I put a wall up big time with those couple people. I think for me, a lot's changed in the 3 years in that I know pretty well who I can trust to say words that are coming from a good place, which I think probably almost everybody, if not everybody, their words are coming from a good place. We know you mean well, but also having the awareness that I'm broken. Erica is broken. Chris is broken. Amanda's broken. And we will be broken forever. If your words are anything that seem to give the impression that you think we're fixed and we've moved on and all's good, it's going to be a very hard time talking to you. But if your words are coming from a place where you, again, if you're acknowledging the fact that, hey, you know what, I know you're still hurting. It's very, at least for me, very difficult for you to put yourself in a position where I have any kind of negative feelings or fear of talking to you. Yes, there are words that hurt, and I know a lot of people have said words that as soon as they said them, they wish they could pull them back and it made them feel bad. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it's like, you're okay. Chris and I talked a few weeks ago about the bank account, building the bank account. And if you've done that, you have to really try to say some evil things for us to really hold a grudge against you or avoid you or whatever the scenario is. Um, but if we know you're coming from a good place, a sincere heart, and you acknowledge the fact that we are not okay, then I think your words are generally fairly safe or fairly excusable. I don't know. Maybe Chris can find a better way to say what I'm saying. Because
Yeah, I think you're really just trying to say, like, if we can tell that you're genuine, like you're genuine, you're real, you're putting that, authentic, you're trying. I think Dan and I are we're long enough in this journey where we know when someone's faking it and when someone's being real. I think that's a good way to put it. Like,
yep,
you could say something and I'll know right away. Like, yeah, you really don't care. So don't no need to talk to me about this, man. Or I get the sense like, hey, this person's really trying. They really don't know what to say, and that's okay because these are uncomfortable conversations for some people that have never dealt with grief at all. They're very uncomfortable. People don't know what to say. What do you say to somebody that lost their child? There's nothing. But you know what? The people putting that effort in trying to make us feel comfortable, trying to show us they care, that's where the difference comes in. That's where, for at least for me, I know when the person's trying.
right.
So those listening, if you're not dealing with the grief and you just want to help someone out, put the effort in and try your best. Show them you actually care. Don't just, put the fake conversation on because it can be seen from a mile away. We could sense it. We could smell it in the water. I can guarantee you all the other grieving parents, they probably feel the same way. We can tell when people aren't being genuine, they don't care. What do you think, Dan? Is that kind of where you're going with it?
Yep, I think that you did a much better job than I did probably saying it. So, good job. I think I just totally forgot what I was going to say. Hey, live recording, right? Going back to something.
Days.
Yeah, going back to something that Chris said or alluded to at the beginning. I think, and again, we understand that it is hard, and a lot of people feel like it's impossible to talk to us because it is such a long road that you have to tiptoe on so carefully. We recognize that. We wish we could make it easier. But I think what I've learned in my 3 years is that, again, as long as it's coming from a sincere heart and that you really do care, any words are better than silence. I don't know if I think I shared it on the show. It may have just been with Chris, but Jameson's birthday passed last September, and I didn't hear from many people. I think it was 6 people that I heard from that day that said, hey, I'm thinking about you. That devastated me because of all the people that I have in my life. To only have 6 people reach out was really hard because my boy is being forgotten. And that's something that crushes us every day. We don't want our child forgotten. And so we want to hear their names. We want to hear their memories. We want to hear that you're thinking of us or our boys. We want to know that you care. We want to know that we're not alone. Um, so, again, as long as you're coming from a sincere heart that really, truly cares, say something. It drives me crazy to hear people say, I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say. And that, again, we can understand it, but at least for me, that hurts a whole lot more than if you would have said the wrong thing. Because at least people who I expect to be my friends and say something, at least you said something. You at least acknowledge the fact that you know that something horrible happened and today is that day or the birthday or whatever it is.
Yeah, and yeah, you bring up some great points. I was thinking like it's you're better off bringing up some good memories, really, right? Like you said, that fear as a parent of people forgetting your child, forgetting your loss, it is real. It is something I deal with. Dan and I have talked about it before. As time goes on, if you're brand new to grief and you're just dealing with it, the amount of support you get the first day, week, month, 6 months is pretty intense. Uh, and you definitely feel like you're not alone. But you know what? It's after that 6 months when you get to that 9 month mark and then that 1 year mark. And you know what? Okay, so it's the first anniversary, so you get a lot of help then. Everyone's in it again. Everyone's in it to help you again. Oh, and then it's back to their lives, which is totally understandable. People that are dealing with grief, we really understand that people are going to get back to their normal life. Uh, we're not getting back to our normal life. We're actually forging a new life. We have to start all over again. New family dynamics, new pressures, new um, coping mechanisms, new everything. Dealing with first, second, third anniversaries, fourth anniversaries, fifth anniversaries. They're very difficult. And as the time goes on, that forgottenness grows more and more. I'm only a year and a half in, and I already feel it. You feel like people like, yeah, they're there, but they're gone, you know? And I'm sure, I know Dan has said the same thing too. He feels it too. Like, people are there, but they're really, it's not as traumatizing anymore. They got stuff going on, and that's fine. Uh, I don't have any good advice in the sense that if you're one of those people that could just reach out to the person that's dealing with grief and saying, hey, all you got to say is, hey, I'm here for you. Or, hey, I just want to bring up this memory I was thinking about of your loved one and just made me smile today. And wow, that'll put a huge smile on my face. I promise you that. Someone says, hey, I remember Mason playing this sport with my kid and he did awesome. I remember scoring this goal. It wouldn't hurt my feelings and it wouldn't put me into depression. I promise you, it'd actually make me do better knowing that people were remembering him and thinking about, all the awesomeness that he brought to this world. So there's another little piece of tidbit advice. It's okay to bring up the loved one. It's okay to remember the good times. Because you know what? Right now, people that are dealing with grief, they're having a hard time remembering the good times. A lot of PTSD, a lot of flashbacks of the bad stuff. For me and for my wife, the whole week in the hospital, it's been almost 2 years now. It rolls through my mind every single day, at least once, from beginning to end. Every little piece of it. And that starts to mentally wear you down over time. And I'm sure Dan probably deals with that in a sense too. I'll let him talk about that. But man, that mental drain of thinking of the negatives all the time starts to eat away at you. So people bringing up the good times, remembering the fun times, it's not going to put us in a depression or any sadness, because I promise you, we're already at the lowest of lows that we can go. Bring up those good memories. It's really going to help that your friends or family out to remember those loved ones.
Yeah. Chris, when people do that and they share a positive memory or any memory with Mason, do you still cry? Do you still tear up?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it's, I always say it all the time. I wish I could go back in time. I want those moments back. You just don't realize how precious they are until they're gone. It's so cliche. It's very movie. You feel like you're in the movies in the sense like, gosh, I just wish I had those moments back. I just wish I had that moment back. I wish I could go back in time. I wish I could relive those again. So there's a sense of sadness for me, but there is the joy of remembering that moment too,
Right.
and the happiness in that moment. And I think that's what gets me through and makes me feel better. At the beginning, I would have said, within the first couple months, I would have just been sad that he was gone. And as the time goes on now, I'm not going to say I'm better or I'm perfect or in the sense that it's where I want it to be, but I am going to say that as good memories come up, it does help me. It does help me get through the day because the sadness of thinking about all the bad things all the time can weigh you down. So, what about you, Dan? How do you feel about
Yeah,
it?
exactly the same. And that's, I think, a key thing I want people to know with the memories. You're going to get tears from me. I'm going to shed a couple tears because Jameson is gone and I can't build any more memories. But my heart, when you recognize my boy and you acknowledge our pain and you show us that you care, my heart is a little bit more joyful for a moment in time. And no, it doesn't last really long because very quickly we go back to our new life, like Chris was saying, that Jameson and Mason aren't here anymore. But for that moment, you took us a little bit farther out of the valley that we're in. And don't, in that situation, don't feel bad about the tears. Shed a tear with us because there is always that negative part that they're gone. But you don't need to worry that, oh, I shouldn't have said that. It's a good thing that you did. You're acknowledging our heroes and you're acknowledging our pain, and we want to hear it. I had just recently had one of our dad breakfasts, and I put out our pamphlets at the table and Jameson's pictures on the front cover. And at the end of the breakfast, a little girl came up to me with the pamphlet, and I mean, it's a little. I think she's in third grade, as innocent as can be, and and showed me the picture, and it's like, is that Jameson? Is that him? And I think a lot of people would be scared to do that because you're worried that it's going to upset me. And yeah, I shed a tear. Jameson's gone. That's always going to be there. But that made me so happy to have, and I think it was magnified by the fact that it was a little kid doing it. Just something about it being a kid came up and acknowledged my boy and acknowledged he's the reason really why we were there in that room this morning. And I looked at her and I wanted to say, hell yeah, that's my boy. And obviously didn't. She's a third grade kid, but I did. I looked at her and I just smiled and said, yeah, that's Jameson. Thank you for asking. And it did. It just, for that minute, it just made my heart so much lighter. And then, sure enough, on the way home, I broke down. And it's a bad thing. Breaking down is a bad thing. Jameson is gone. But I broke down in a better way because somebody acknowledged my boy. Somebody said his name. Somebody looked at his picture and just showed that they cared. And that means the world when you do that.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I'm glad that little girl came up to you and asked that. And I think what you're doing with the school there, it's an amazing opportunity for dads to get closer with their kids, spend time with them, be part of their life, and for dads really to get that opportunity. Because you know what? Uh, Dads have just as much love for their kids as moms do. All right. And that's a thing that's as we dealt with grief. And that's kind of why Dan and I got into this podcast, really, is there was not, there were some social media pages, but I'll promise you, almost all of them that I was on for dads helping dads dealing with grief, it's like crickets on those pages. Nobody says anything. A couple guys here and there say something, but it really wasn't helpful. At least it wasn't helpful for me. And Dan, what you're doing with that organization, Jameson's Joy, and helping other dads out, amazing. Keep up the good work. You're motivating all us other dads out there to do our best to spend our time with our kids for sure.
Thanks. I got a I got a great comment after the breakfast. Um, one of the things I had the dads do this time, if they wanted to, was stand up and just publicly brag on their kid. And as Chris just said, dads don't talk. That's a hard thing to do for maybe even women. I don't know. To stand up in front of a crowd of people and talk is scary. And I'm asking them to do that in a room full of complete strangers and brag on their kids. And most of the dads do it. And the kids just light up. And again, that's our episode. Words matter. But when I shared about the breakfast, I had a comment from a lady who said, "My dad died when I was 9, and I would give anything to hear his voice now and hear him tell me he was proud of me." And God, it's hit me harder now than it did when she made the comment. We're doing the dad's part of Jameson's Joy because kids need to know that they matter. And kids need to know that they matter to both parents. And it doesn't matter if you're married or divorced. Kids deserve both parents. And obviously, there's some extreme situations where it's not safe. But in general, we adults are terrible at putting our problems onto our kids. And it's not fair to them to not have both parents in their life, as long as it's a safe thing for them. But to hear this from that lady just highlighted the fact that with Jameson's Joy, we have our say yes moment, our say yes movement that, as Chris was talking about earlier, I can't imagine. Yeah, none of us imagined that we would lose our child, but it happened. And thank God that I made the memories I did with Jameson while I had him. And there's a lot of them that are amazing. But, oh my God, it sucks to not be able to make any new memories with him forever. Or forever on this earth. And to hear this lady then say, from the kid's perspective of who's now an adult, yeah, I'd give anything to hear those words from my dad again. It hit me hard.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because really what you're doing with your organization is you're giving those kids, who knows what will happen in the future. Let's hope nothing happens to those dads, but let's say something does happen. These kids will have a memory now forever of their dad bragging on them. It's just something they're going to always have. And again, an amazing idea, and you're doing awesome things with Jameson's Joy. So keep up the good work with that. I did have a question though for you. In terms of, we talk a lot about with dads and their emotions and or anyone really. For me, when I have a bad day and I do cry about Mason, and I actually cry, I have tears coming out. At that moment when I'm crying, it hurts. I'm really in a lot of pain. But when I finally calm down and take a breath, it's almost like a release. Those tears coming out were like a release, kind of like a reset, like, okay, I'm back in this fight again. Let's go. And I was just curious how you feel about that, Dan, if you have that same emotion or if it's a little different for you at all.
I do, and I don't think that's a grief thing. I mean, when you ask that question, Chris, I think about the phrase of having an ugly cry, and we all need to do that. It cleanses us, and it releases so much tension from our body that we feel better. We're not healed in any way, but yeah, we have a weight off our shoulders. And I think, again, if you're a person, I almost said friend, but you don't have to be a friend. If you're a person who cares, whether it's grief or whatever, and you know that somebody's hurting and they start breaking down, it's okay to break down with them and have that ugly cry with them, because when it's over, yeah, it's gonna feel better because we do as grieving people. Well, I do as a grieving dad. I hold a lot in, and I'm anybody that watches the show knows that I'm not afraid to speak my mind, but I still hold stuff in a lot. Every day it's a struggle because again, if I'm not around the right people who I feel totally comfortable with, I'm not going to release a lot of what I'm feeling. And that builds up. So if you're somebody who's close to me or who again, if you're coming from a good genuine heart and you share something and you see me breaking down, it's okay to break down with me. And let's because again, it makes me think back to last week's episode with the footprints of if you're sitting right there breaking down with us, you're helping carry us right at that moment because we're going to cry. Maybe you don't know this, but we're going to cry with or without you. And in most cases, I would say it's probably better to cry with somebody else there because then when the crying's done, you can lift us up again.
Yes, I agree for sure. It definitely helps having someone there with you, and again, like we've been talking this whole episode, bringing up the good memories, just knowing you're not alone, having support. At the end of the day, we're all part of this crazy world, and what better way to try to make the world a little better than helping those that are in pain, suffering, anything you can do to help out, super vital in these difficult times. So, Dan and I were here for everyone as well. If you need anything, by all means, you can reach out to us on social media. You can, message us. We'll help get you to the right people that can help you. There's tons and tons of even volunteer organizations that help with grief. So if you're worried about money, that you can't afford it, there are lots of organizations out there that give you help free of charge, will help you get through these difficult times and help you, like I said before, it's almost like starting a new life again when you're dealing with a really difficult grief. I've said it numerous times. I really feel it. When Mason left and went to heaven, it was like my life started over again. And it wasn't a good start. It was a bad start. And I had to really, it took a long time to be able to refocus again on everything, on my wife, on my kids, on myself. But it can be done. You're not alone. Other people care. We care, and we're gonna be able to, help get you through this if you need something. So don't feel like you're alone in this by any means.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean for me to summarize words, say our boys' names. I I can't think of any situation where you would be wrong saying the word Jameson, saying the word Mason to us. Uh, Share those memories. And yes, we're going to cry because that's what they are, um, memories. And there's no new ones being created. But they bring a little bit of joy at that moment. So share those memories with us. Some of the best words Chris said them a few minutes ago. Just say I'm thinking of you. On birthdays, Mason's birthday, Jameson's birthday, happy birthday, happy Father's Day. We've talked about that before. Doesn't work for me, but I'm thinking of you. My sister is phenomenal at this. She will always text and just say, you're on my mind today. And that is one of the most perfect things you can say because you're not trying to fix us, which is impossible. You're acknowledging our hurt. You're not giving the cliches that Chris mentioned earlier, but we hear you saying, "Hey, you know what? I care about you." And that's what it comes down to. I care about you. I care about Jameson. I care about you. I care about Mason. So share those memories. Share their name. Just say, "I'm thinking of you. You're on my mind today. You're on my heart today." And those are pretty safe words in almost every situation. Chris, any summaries for you?
No, I think you hit everything nail on the head. Again, real quick, one last thing though I want to point out again is don't feel like you have to walk on eggshells either. At least not. You got to feel it out with everyone, but you're better off just trying than you don't have to make it awkward. We already know it's difficult for you. It's difficult for us. You just navigate it the best you can, and like Dan said, bringing the names up and trying your best to show that you care. Um, I will say 99% of the grieving people will see that and they'll understand that you're trying, and that's all that matters. So, but with that, no, Dan, I think everything is good. Um, Thank you again for your support and friendship through this difficult couple years, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do this with you and hopefully helping those. If you ever want to come on, if you're listening and you want to come on and you'd like to share your story of your loved one and how you've been dealing with grief, how you think it might help someone out, reach out to Dan or myself. We'd love to have you on and give you that opportunity to talk about your loved one.
Yeah. And I think that, listen to Chris, I want to throw that out there again, too. We have a lot of grieving dads who are listening to this show. Chris and I are here for you. Our words matter too, and we want you to know that this is not easy. If you've listened to Chris and me from season 1, episode 1, you've heard a lot of tears. It is not easy to get up here and talk, but we both are a million steps farther down that path than we would have been had we not been talking to each other constantly. So, to everybody who's listening to this, if you're grieving, it's hard. And I know there's a lot of dads who have reached out to me, "Hey, I want to come on and share," and then they've said, "I'm not ready." We get it. We totally get it. When you're ready, we're here. If hearing the fact that Chris and I are here to listen to you, if that helps you, you're welcome to come share, because again, just like we talked about that ugly cry, what Chris asked me about, that's what this show does. It gives us a chance to release it. At the very worst, I'm releasing it to Chris, he releases it to me, and if you come on and share, you'll release it to both of us and we will listen to you. And it takes a lot of strength. I think that's the right word, good word for it. Um, but it is hard. But Chris and I are here. If Chris has talked numerous times, if you're thinking about suicide or anything like that, we know we hear that from a lot of people, and we get it. I've been there. Um, Chris and I are here. We will listen. Reach out to us, please. Um, we
Yeah,
cannot.
even if you don't want to, we won't broadcast. We can just talk, just us three together. We've done that before too. So don't feel any pressure like, oh, they're gonna air out all my dirty laundry or what I'm feeling or going through. We can just talk, us three, on Google Meets like we always do, or Zoom, whatever is easiest. We've done it on Facebook Messenger. We've done it. There's numerous different ways now. We can all meet up and just talk and help each other out, because at the end, and sorry to cut you off there, Dan, we just want to help everyone out the best we can.
Absolutely. So great. Well, thank you all. As always, thanks for listening. Um, Chris and I, as we talked about at the beginning, we are thrilled with the feedback that we're getting. It helps my heart when I get a message like I did the other day from an old friend that her mother's gonna start listening to the show because they've lost somebody recently. Um, it it warms our heart to know that it's getting out there one person at a time, and if we can make a difference, then again we'll carry that torch. So thank you all for listening again. Info at jamesonsjoy.org and Jameson's Joy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Chris?
Yeah, Miles for Mason Memorial.com or Chris at Miles for Mason Memorial.com. You can reach me either way. You can reach us on social media as well. Thanks again to everyone at WMQL Radio in Brevard. Thanks for listening. Thanks to everyone on YouTube, on all the social media platforms, and also on all the podcasts. You can get it on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, all the normal podcasts. You just search A Father's Love Healing Through Heartache. You can go back and listen to all the episodes from the very beginning. If you're just starting to listen on the radio now, Dan and I really recommend you go back and listen to some of the earlier episodes. You'll be able to hear the difference in our tone, even just the way we talk, from those first episodes to where we are now. What a difference talking has made in getting those feelings out. So if you get a chance to go on there, you're just driving around, you got a long drive going to work or coming home from work, maybe it'll help you out. Just a little tip in there for us. So Dan, anything else, brother?
That's it. Close us up, bud.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to A Father's Love, Healing Through Heartache. And hope you'll come back on again. Have a great night.